draft grades for every lottery team. So just to tell everybody that's listening, it's not the draft grade for the team's draft as a whole. It's the grade for the team in that pick, their lottery pick. What's the grade for their lottery pick? So I'll start out first. Number 1, Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, I'm going to give this pick a grade of a B because I think that, yes, people thought he was a consensus number 1 pick, but those question marks of if he loves basketball are huge to me. And because of that, I can't give him an A. He's a B grade for me, and that's exactly why, because I'm not sure if he's sold on loving basketball.
I also gave it a B here just because of the exact point that you mentioned. And if he was a perfectly polished NBA-ready talent and he said that he didn't love basketball that much, maybe I would say, okay, I get the risk, but the fact that you had James Wiseman and Lamela on the board who were at the same level talent-wise, I would say,
yep,
and you have these questions about Anthony Edwards, it concerns me. So I went for the reason I think those two things kind of butt heads a little bit. I gave him a B because he is a great talent, but we have to see how much he really loves the game.
So the second overall pick, James Wiseman, I gave this grade an A. I mean, I think he's a physical dominant presence. The Warriors are they could have went LaMelo with LaMelo here, but it was off, I think, kind of the fact that they didn't think Klay was going to be out for the year. But even so, I think James Wiseman is really talented. He can be a superstar in the NBA, kind of like a Joel Embiid. So I think that this grade is an A, and he loves basketball. From everything that I've read, he loves the game.
Yeah, I also gave this Warriors pick an A. They've been missing a big for as long as we can remember. I feel like they've just been slotting in big after big, from David Lee to Bogut to Festus Ezeli to Kevon Looney, Willie Cauley-Stein. I think that James Wiseman can be that big alongside Steph Curry. He can shoot the basketball. And like you said, he's known to be a student of the game. He's coming into a great system under a great head coach. It couldn't be a better fit, and I'm excited for the Warriors on this one.
So the number 3 pick, Lamela Ball to the Hornets. I gave this grade A+. I mean, granted, for where they selected him, there wasn't a better prospect on the board to pick over LaMelo. They didn't pick for positional fit. They picked for the best player available, Lamela Ball, an A+ grade. I think he's going to be a star.
You got to stop going before me. I also gave this pick an A+ because, like you mentioned, at the 3rd overall pick, I think that LaMelo is arguably the most talented player in the entire pool, and he has that it factor, that superstar factor that I don't see as much in Edwards and I don't see as much in Wiseman. So I think he was the perfect fit for Charlotte, and I'm excited to see, how he slots in this year, whether they trade Terry Rozier or if he just slides in and starts over Terry and Terry comes off the bench, if they start him at the 3. There's so many opportunities with his size and his talent. He can be very versatile for them. I like that pick a lot, and I don't think they could have done any better.
Mm-hmm. Number 4 overall pick, Patrick Williams, who was a surprise to everybody. I gave this grade a C. I was thinking about going lower, but I said Chicago needs defense. He can play the power forward or the small forward. He's great defensively. His offense is just iffy. But because he kind of fits somewhere in that team and Billy Donovan is there, I gave this pick a C. I'm not as down on it, even though I would have liked them to pick a point guard better.
Yeah, I gave it a C+. I think he has potential to be a solid NBA. I don't think he has star potential, to be totally honest with you. I think he can be a good NBA player. I think the fit is a little weird, too. He's a little clunky. He doesn't move great. So to pair him alongside potentially Wendell Carter, Larry Markkinen, and then, if you could put him at the 3, I just don't know about that. He's a great defender, which will be nice having guys like Kobe White on the court, and I'm not sure who they're going to have at point guard yet. Tomas Satoransky maybe,
and he
or
came
Chris
off
Dunn.
the bench.
So, I get where they were going with this pick, but with where they were picking at, it just didn't make much sense to me. I gave it a C+ because I like Patrick Williams as a player. I just didn't like where they took him.
So last number 4 overall pick that got selected and came off the bench was Dion Waiters for Syracuse. So that's just a little fun fact there. But the number 5th pick, the Cavaliers selected Isaac Okoro. I gave this this grade is a D for me. Really? I mean, Isaac Okoro, when the best attribute about you is that you're a winner, and you help win, I think he's a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, but a little bit smaller. Like, I don't see star potential. I don't see superstar potential. He's probably going to play the small forward position with Sexton and Garland being the 2 lead guards and him at the 3. Kind of undersized for a small forward. I just don't see him making a huge impact. And when you had Obi Toppin there, when you could have drafted Obi Toppin, and Kevin Love's future in Cleveland is kind of a mystery, you should have went with that. But instead, they went with somebody like Okoro. On my board, I had him going to like 10 to 15 range. I didn't have him going at the 5th pick. So I thought this was a surprise.
I flip-flopped between a C+ and a B-. I gave it a B- just because I think the fit is good. I think the past few years, you've seen them draft Garland, Sexton, even Kevin Porter Jr. All 3 of those guys can score the heck out of the ball, but they do not play a lick of defense. So to bring in Okoro, who is known as a terrific perimeter defender, it's going to be nice to have that alongside the 3 guys who you hope to be your guards of the future. So I thought the fit was really good. I docked them a lot, like you mentioned, for passing up on a guy like Obi Toppin and a couple other players. I thought even Halliburton would have been a better pick here because he can defend, and he's also a great offensive player. He's more versatile. So I like Okoro. I like the fit. I just feel like they didn't get great value. That's why I went B-.
So the next pick, the number 5th pick in the draft, Onyeka Okongwu, I gave this grade an F. This is an F for me. I mean, you have Clint Capella, who's basically Onyeka clone, right? Or Onyeka's a Capella clone. I didn't see a need. I think they needed another lead guard. You saw when Jeff T got traded to the Hawks, they had a huge jump. They were a better team with Jeff Teague, and that's because a guard was able to take the pressure off of Trae Young. You could have got Halliburton here, and you guys would have been set in the backcourt. The Hawks would have. But instead, you went with a center. A rim-running, good defending center. I get the pick, but it wasn't the right one. It's an F for me.
Yeah, I gave this one a D+. Like you mentioned, the fit was horrible. Behind guys like Clint Capella, John Collins, it's just where is he going to fit in to that team? I believe they still have Alex Len, right? I don't know what his contract is looking like, but they have bigs. They didn't need another big, and there were guards available that they could have drafted. There was wings available that they could have drafted. Another guy, Tyrese Halliburton, I thought would have been a terrific fit here to pair alongside Trae Young, but instead they go with Onyeka, who I like. I actually like him a lot as a player. I think he could be a great NBA player. He doesn't really fit the mold right now, which is more versatile centers, but he can bang down low. He could step out and shoot it a little bit. So I think in the right situation, he would have developed really well.
I mean, the hope is that he can become Bam Adebayo. That's the hope.
Yeah, I just don't I don't see where he's going to develop this year unless they trade Capella, because I would have loved the pick if they didn't have Capella and you could have paired him alongside John Collins, and it could have been like a little death lineup, but the fit, it makes no sense to me.
Exactly. Now the number 7th pick, Killian Hayes of the Detroit Pistons. I gave this grade an A. I mean, I love Killian Hayes. I'm high on him. If he was there where the Knicks were selecting, I would have wanted the Knicks to take Killian Hayes. I think he has the potential to be a superstar in the league. Maybe superstar is too much. A star in the league. I love Killian Hayes. He's a smooth player. I thought this was a great pick. They needed a point guard of the future, and they secured one in Killian Hayes.
Yeah, I gave him a B+ for this one. I like Hayes a lot. I think he needs a little bit of development, and it's small things that are fixable. Like, he needs to work on his right hand a little bit. Like, he definitely needs to work on getting better with his right hand. He needs to get that shot a little bit more consistent. And physically, he just needs to get acquainted with the NBA game. It's always a question mark bringing guys in from overseas, but the last few years, I feel like, with Luka, Porzingis, there's been a couple of big hits, and I think that Hayes can be that next guy. I like the fit, and I think it was a good pick for the Pistons.
So the number 8th pick, the Knicks selected Obi Toppin. I gave this grade an A+. Look, Obi Toppin, highlight reel. He's going to bring excitement back to Madison Square Garden. I wasn't high on the pick when it was made, but like I said, sleeping on it, having some 8 hours of sleep on it, I said, nah, that was a guy to pick. The Knicks made the right decision, and finally, some good luck goes by the Knicks' way. And this was the best pick. This was the best available player at this pick.
Yeah,
This is an A+.
I gave it an A. I flip-flop between A minus, just because we talked about the weaknesses in Obi Toppin's game. He's not a good defender at all by any means. There's no way to frame. He's a bad defender. But coming into the system, we discussed it. It was the right pick to make. He was by far the best available player on the board. He's box office. He can play. And he's, like I mentioned before, a walking highlight reel. So if you can get him to reach that potential, he's going to fill the seats at Madison Square Garden once again. So I really like this pick for the Knicks, and I don't think that there was any other way to go here.
Number 9th pick, the Wizards selected Denny Avdija. Hopefully I said that right. But I gave this pick a B+, and I gave this pick a B+ because it's not often that at the 9th pick you draft somebody in Denny who has star potential. I mean, he was the top 5 prospect. He could have went as high as 5 or 4 to Chicago, and you got him at 9. The Wizards were hoping a guy like this was available, and if he can get a jump shot, this pick he's going to be one of the sleepers in this draft. But because of that, I gave him a B+. Best available player they could have drafted at this spot, I think so.
Yeah, just like I gave to the Pistons, I gave the Wizards a B+. They found a nice overseas talent that, I thought went a little bit lower than I thought they were going to go. They got great value for their pick. It's a good fit, and I'm excited to see if they could develop him. They've had some trouble developing a couple of guys over the past few years and in retaining that young talent. And now with John Wall, Bradley Beal, and they have some nice talent down there, Rui Hachimura, even Thomas Bryant. So he slots right into that 3 spot. It'll be interesting to see, does he come in immediately? Does he play behind Troy Brown Jr.? So I'm excited to see him in Washington. I think it was a great value pick.
Number 10th overall pick, the Phoenix Suns selected Jalen Smith. I gave this pick a D-. I think that they could have gotten Tyrese Halliburton and had a point guard of the future after Chris Paul is gone. Jalen Smith he fits their positional need at power forward, but I don't think he should have been the pick. And that's why I gave this pick a D-. This a grade of a D-.
I gave it a D, which was my worst grade that I gave out in the entire thing. I talked about it before in my loser segment. I don't like the fit at all. I think they could have used the 4 if the 4 was somebody like Onyeka, who can, stretch the floor. He's athletic.
I think Jalen Smith just does a better job at stretching the floor.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think Onyeka is a shooter.
I think he's a little more clunky than Onyeka. So I don't like the fit next to DeAndre Ayton. And like you said, Cam Johnson isn't the most athletic dude pairing alongside Ayton. So I just don't know where he fits in that big man scheme. And I thought they could have gotten a lot better value for where they're at.
Number 11, Devin Vasel goes to the San Antonio Spurs. I gave this pick a B. I mean, Devin Vasel is 6'7". He's a great defender. He's a great shooter. He shot great in college. And if there's a team that can develop him into be like a star player, I think it's the Spurs. And this was a perfect spot for Devin Vasel to land.
Yeah, I gave this one a B+. I thought that, like you mentioned, in that Spurs system, a great three-point shooter and a great defender. What more could you... I mean, that is prototypical Spurs. I thought, again, they got great value for where they were picking at. I know we had talked weeks leading up to the draft. Maybe he would be a Knick at 8. And if Obi Toppin wasn't there, he might have been. So they got good value. They got arguably the best shooter in college basketball in the country last year and a great perimeter defender. And pairing it alongside the guards that they have there, I really like DeJounte Murray. And that could be a nightmare for opposing backcourts moving forward in the future. So I gave it a B+.
At the 12th pick, the Sacramento Kings selected Tyrese Halliburton. I gave this pick an A+. I mean, at this point, you got to draft best available and not positional need. Tyrese should have never been this far. He should have got drafted earlier. So for the Kings to get somebody to pair with De'Aaron Fox, because Buddy Hield might be out the door, Bogdanovich is out the door, you needed another guard. And they got that with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, and I gave this an A+ for the value. And I also think that pairing him alongside De'Aaron Fox is going to be the perfect fit. I know they've been talking about Buddy Hield being out, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But if Buddy Hield does have to go in a trade, now you have a guy you could either play. I think you could play Fox at the 2. You could play him at the 2, however you want to split it. But I think those two guys can share the court. They're both great playmakers, great defenders, and just like that Murray-Vassell backcourt could be a nightmare matchup for backcourts in the future.
So with the number 13th pick, the Pelicans selected Cara Lewis Jr. I gave this a grade of a D. I don't think he's a D grade prospect, but I think that he is a player that should have never been drafted here. I mean, you have George Hill, Eric Bledsoe, Lonzo Ball, J.J. Redick. You didn't have to draft a guard here. And for them to draft the guard here, I felt like was a waste of a pick. They could have went in so many different directions. I would have drafted Aaron Nesmith if I was the Pelicans. But because of those reasons, I'm giving this draft pick, a grade of a D.
Yeah, I give it a C. I like Cara Lewis as a prospect, like you said, but this fit just made no sense. And I thought there were better options on the board for them, Nesmith being one of them, and a couple players that went after. But I just think that the fit made no sense with bringing in George Hill, Bledsoe, having Lonzo, having J.J. Redick. I don't see where he gets any minutes unless they make other deals, which then maybe we can revisit this grade. But as of now, I'm going to give it a C.
The last lottery pick, number 14 pick, the Boston Celtics selected Aaron Nesmith. I gave this a grade of an A+. I think Aaron Nesmith, he's a star. He might not become a star in Boston because of how packed that rotation is, but I think he's going to be a great shooter in the league. He can be a great defender. And if the Knicks would have drafted him at 8, I would have been happy with that pick. I think Aaron Nesmith is a star in the making, and this was a great pick for Boston's bench, and you couldn't have found a better player, and this was the best shooter in the draft as well.
Yeah, and for all the reasons you mentioned, I'm going with an A for this one. Aaron Nesmith reminds me a lot of Devin Vasel. Great shooter, one of the better shooters in the country last year, and a great defender. And I think that he'll be able to come in and play immediately off the bench for the Celtics. They needed some bench depth, and that was great for them to be able to get him where they got him, a great value. So I give him credit for making such a good pick at the end of the lottery.
Hey, what's up, guys? You just finished watching a clip of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran.
My name is Jack Barteck.
My name is River Brown.
And we are your hosts for this podcast. We want to thank you guys for watching the clip. Like, subscribe, and comment, and share if you would care to, because it helps us grow. We're trying to make this a full-time thing. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting, and see you next time.